All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to get started. It's 6:01 on February 29th. I want to welcome all of you to this evening's general meeting here at the Enníska Recreation Center. We're going to call the meeting to order. We have the acceptance of the agenda, rules of order, follow up from the February 1st general meeting. We have a presentation on the Dundee land claim settlement update. We have a presentation on the fiber to the home project as well. We'll take business from the floor. We have a resolution and announcements to make. So that's the agenda for this evening's general meeting of February 29th here at the Enníska Recreation. Could I have a mover to accept the agenda? Julie, second by Dwayne. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, so thanks for joining us this evening. As we move into our general meeting this evening, I want to just take a moment of silence to acknowledge the members of our community who have passed away or lost over the last month. So I'll take a moment to observe a moment of silence, please. All right, thank you very much. On behalf of myself and council, I express our condolences to all those affected by loss since the last general meeting. This evening, Chief Edward and Chief Vanessa are not able to join us. They're away on council business. So this evening's agenda, which I've read into the record, we have the two presentations. We're going to start our meeting at approximately 6 p.m. We'll go to approximately 8 p.m., at which time we will take a check to see where we are on the agenda and determine whether or not we'll continue to proceed or if we will reschedule some items until next week. Personal issues will not be dealt with in this forum. So this is a community meeting, which is considered a public forum. Any items that you want to discuss with council that are of personal nature, whether it be related to yourself or services at the MCA. You want it all? Better with no. My apologies. So this is a public forum of personal issues. Again, well, we're not streaming on Zoom tonight. There was a request that it be reconsidered. We haven't made that decision yet. There was a bit of an oversight, but the meetings are recorded still. So we have cameras set up in the room in which we are using to record the meeting, and the meeting will be then streamed onto the MCA Facebook page at a later date in a couple of days when it's uploaded. So as we move along on our agenda, we ask that you please keep your questions relevant to the discussion item that we're having, whether it be the presentation or other items. There is a section at the end of the meeting, which is the business from the floor, where we can address issues broadly. But please, again, keep your questions relevant to the discussion item at that time. We ask that you please raise your hand if you have a question. I will make a list of items or persons that want to speak, and I'll call upon you to when it is your turn to speak. Also, we ask that you all remain respectful. This is a public forum. It is a community meeting with the Mohawk Council and the elected leadership, and we ask that you please remain respectful to each other, to council, and to everybody in the meeting today. We're all here to continue to dialogue and assist with the growth and direction of our community. So we ask that everybody please be respectful. As well, any issues that can't be dealt with in this forum, whether we don't have an answer or require some follow-up, we will note that and report it back at the next general meeting, which is the follow-up item on the agenda, where we'll report back to you items that have been undertaken to be either investigated or followed up on, and report those back. So again, thank you to all of you for joining us at this evening's general meeting here at the Enníska Recreation. It is February 29th. So we'll go into the follow-up from the last general meeting of February 1st, which took place at the Recreation Center. So the action item, and I do believe that this is material and provided or not? Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
it's at the back.
So number one was a request for the chief's expenditures. So that is in the packages that are being provided to you. So again, at the table here, there's a number of documents that we either are part of the follow-up or the part of the presentations that we'll be doing this evening, so that material is there for you. So there's a request to have Macomber Road North on the placed on the capital list, and we'll turn to one of the DIAG portfolio chiefs to give us an update on that.
Yes, we forward those action items to our the IHE director, and we haven't gotten a response yet.
Okay.
Ongoing.
All right, so the process is underway to look at including that project on the capital list. You'll recall that last, was there something you want to add to that?
We have responses to all yes.
Okay. Turn your microphone on if you don't mind.
They want to know about Macomber Road North being on the capital plan list. They said it doesn't have to be on the capital plan and they are going to repair the road. They don't know why AMS was closed on February 2nd. Maybe Andy closed it, I don't know. Potholes on White Road, they can be fixed as soon as that warms up a little. They don't recommend storing salt at in Cornwall, at Portlands. And some about MCRs are usually prepared and handed in on a Wednesday. We discussed on Monday. They were just adding that because someone said an MCR was done on Friday, heard on Monday. They just clarified that.
Yeah, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So that was number 1, 2, and 3. We have covered 4 with the potholes on White Road. So the portfolio has provided the background information, as well the question around the sand and salt being stored at the Portlands and Cornwalls that's been addressed. Request for a presentation on the Dundee land claim, which is this evening, and we have a request for special need. Is there an update on that request?
It's ongoing.
Okay, then that's ongoing as well. So update on DCSS surplus money is where money last year and where money is going this year. Is there an update from the portfolio on that? DCSS? Go ahead, John.
There's no more surplus in the program this year.
Okay. All right, so request for economic development to meet with the Governmental Recreation Center. Somebody have any additional information on that?
Our portfolio meeting is tomorrow, so.
Okay, so that's ongoing as well. And the last one was to request to have the Zoom option again for the general meeting. Our apologies, that wasn't tabled for council discussion, but will be in the next couple of weeks. Yes.
Chief Joanne said that there was no surplus this year. Is there? Chief Joanne. Chief Joanne said there's no surplus from the Almighty DSS. Last year there was 13 million. That's a big swing. You know, from having 13 million surplus and all of a sudden the controversy surrounding the 13 million giveaway that Mohawk also gave. So now this year there's nothing. Where did it go? You know, like, how did it go from 13 million to nothing? It's a big, they didn't, you know what I mean? Where did it go?
Okay. We can seek clarification on that. I don't have exact particulars on that, but we can do analysis of previous to current. So I think that around surplus is one thing and budgeting is another, but it could be perhaps that's what it is. Did you want to add something in the back on that?
I want permission, and I'm here on related matters, so I can answer the question.
Okay.
So the word surplus is the incorrect word. It's not a surplus because we haven't fulfilled our obligations against this money. So we only have anything that we don't spend will be sent back. Anything we don't spend for the purpose in which we receive it will be sent back. It's not all spent, but the word surplus is incorrect. It's a deferral. We have till 2029 to spend the money. It's no longer 13 million. Now we're looking at about $50 million deferral. I don't have the exact numbers. The chiefs have reached out to ask me to do exact number of rundown of where everything's spent, where it's not spent. So we know exactly what the picture is of that community. But it's still there and it's growing every year.
Okay, thank you. Just really quickly on that, we're gonna have to defer any of this to the,
Just clarification, is that the package, the 10-year package?
no,
That's something separate.
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
So the 10-year grant money is going in what we call reserves. And the stuff that is targeted funds that we have a time limit to spend, we're just deferring year to year. So for the FNCFS lawsuit, you can Google the FNCFS lawsuit that people in Western Canada undertook on behalf of Indigenous children. It'll tell you exactly in there what that money can be spent on. And it's all really geared towards improving the lives of our children on the reserve. So with that, we're getting a handsome sum because of our population every year. And a portion of it goes to the agency, ACFS, and most of it goes to the community. So we are in the works of creating a recreation department. I know that the community has been waiting for that for a long time, and we fully want to fund the entire recreation system on reserve. I'm actually back there doing research right now to get that done because it's been a long time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all right, thank you for that. We're going to move forward with our first presentation, which is the Dundee land claim update. You'll recall that there had been a couple requests made at some of the previous community meetings for an update on the Dundee Trust's monies or Dundee monies that has been received several years ago. So that's the presentation we're going to provide to you this evening. So I'll look to members of the MCA that's going to provide this. There's also members of the internal technical team. Yep, that is, yes.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for having us here. Appreciate it. My name is Heather Phillips. I'm the Director of Finance and Administration at Mohawk Council of Akwesasne. This package Sunday, Director of Justice, Donna Malpoint, Acting Executive Director, and we're all a part of the internal technical team of the any trust that's created by the Mohawk Not Pay Trust on any claims and monies coming in for claims with Mohawk. And our jobs is just to help council with the administration of how the money's gonna work and flow and to and from community organizations. So this, I guess, is a long overdue. I know, are we in the way or do you all have this?
Nobody has it.
So next slide, table of contents of community consultation sessions, the purpose of the trust, beneficiaries, trust property, operating the trust agreements, transparency, trustee selection, and general duties of trustees. So community consultation meetings were held last July by our community trust coordinator. She is in the audience tonight, so Cheryl Baker, she did a very good job in doing the consultation on behalf of us. We're all inundated with work, and the work she did was second to none. So thank you, Cheryl. She would conducted a very fair and transparent process. So a number of meetings were held. The minimum in the trust agreement was 3 meetings. We did 5. Ganadaga Recreation Center, Tishnina Recreation Center, the Training Center in Hogan, the OPG Visitor Center for people for Akwesasne that live in Cornwall, and the last one was at the Gowanoga Recreation Center. So the purpose of the trust, we need to determine priorities for the use of the settlement funds. I forgot my phone. So the first question that usually comes up is how much is the trust worth today? And I looked that up, yesterday before I left my office, and it's now at 248 million. And it's just sitting in an investment account gaining interest until we're ready to use it. So it's to provide benefits to the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne. And the spending is done determined by community consultation. So there is a community consultation report from all of Cheryl's research that we're just refining, and we will be putting on the internet by the end of the fiscal year. And then council submits allocation plans to the trustees every year, and then they release the interest. So the beneficiaries name the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne and the members of the Mohawks of Akwesasne. So member means a person enrolled as a full member of Mohawks of Akwesasne pursuant to section 4 of the Akwesasne membership code, as amended from time to time, but it's never been used. Right, Carol? So the trust property, we did sell at 240 million, but we had to pay back the Canadian government $3 million. That's why when all said and done, it was 237 million. So the trust will hold the invest the Dundee monies. Additional new trust property may be added to the trust with new terms and conditions, and trustees will continue to be legally responsible for all the trust property. So the reason that we went with the trust is because you can hold the trustee personally liable if there's any shenanigans. With limited liability corporation, you can't hold the shareholder personally responsible. So that means we can, if they want to pull shenanigans, we can go after their assets. You know, if they want to hurt the community, then they'll have to be responsible. Go ahead, Kyra. So operating the trust, this flow chart shows how it's intended to work. So every year we consult membership, which is the community of Akwesasne. We consult on priorities and what you want to see done with the interest payment. Mohawk Council takes that information and they assemble a report to release the request. Okay, this year we're gonna build 5 new, we have enough money, we're gonna build 5 new houses. We're gonna put in new parks, we're gonna do this. So then they solicit the trustees and say, this is what we're planning on doing with the money. The trustees release it. The trustees release it, and then they want to report back to make sure that what the money was released for was used for that purpose. And that's this circle here. This part over here is the internal workings of the trust. So they're going to engage with financial advisors. They're going to engage with people to help them invest the money wisely. So that's this side of the page where it's. That's their internal workings, and it goes in a circle every year. So the amount of money we get every year is dependent on how well the markets do. So if we have a bad year, like right after we put this in, the market crashed and it lasted. It blew my mind because it was like we lost $4 million. So that seemed like a lot, but on a $240 million trust, it wasn't that much money. So, and that, and everybody must know markets go up and down all the time. You just hold steady. Go ahead, Paul.
Do you know the Bob,
No, that posting is still there. So does anybody have any other questions on this? Like, you're worried mostly about this one slide. Anybody go ahead?
only their financial advisors?
There's none pointed yet. Once we select trustees, they will assist in finding those financial advisors and doing the selection process along with council.
How are you going to go about letting the call for the trust and your trust administrator?
There'll be a community call out for trustees, and there's certain criteria they have to meet. And then with that, and the ITT will assist in choosing your trust administrator.
What happens in the event that you don't fill those positions similarly to the finance committee where the community call out is now being responded to?
I'm not sure. We would probably, when that time comes, we would probably have to have a frank and earnest discussion with council.
What, in your opinion, do you believe would happen? Because right now, the finance meeting or the FAO is not there. I don't know if you have to bring this up.
No, but I would suspect that we wouldn't have too much of an issue finding people. So in the industry norm of trust and being trustees, they're paid, their honorarium is quite more considerate than what the MCA says. So I believe the current ones, now obviously can be dictated by council to a certain degree, is probably $600 or $700 per meeting. Whereas the MCA pays $50 per hour up to a max, right? So I mean, but as she illustrated in the slide before, right, trustees hold personal responsibility for the oversight of the trust, right? Whereas finance committee members, elected board members, their liability is a little bit different.
But we have had 2 finance committee meetings with community member, with a community member. So
You're getting it.
It's getting better.
In the back,
Marlon.
We have a very divided community. Some people are. We know this, we have a very divided community. And, 5 people oversee $237 million. How are they held accountable from the community? So if the community sees that, just like, any of the chiefs up there, if we see fit that they are not doing their job, they can be efficient out, where their term is just, it's not guaranteed term. So as a trustee, how are they held accountable?
They're charged under trust law. They can be charged, if there was shit, I think we could actually sue and get your personal property.
So.
I think they're held to a higher legal regard, they can hold it, garnish their wages, blah, blah, blah.
So does the community have say like, this trustee is not trusted?
There's certain criteria to be a trustee. You have to have criminal record, you have to show your financial history, you can't have done bankruptcy. I'm not naming all of them, but I know there's strict criteria, and then there's a whole training series that you have to pass before you can become a trustee.
and there is a removal process as well. We're not in their terms, generally terms, we wouldn't go with anything, there probably are trustees that are 10 to 15 years, but we'd never go to anything like that, and there are removal provisions. Go ahead, Charles.
So she mentioned the trust law. So Dundee is located in Quebec. Are we applying Ontario trust law? I don't think there's federal trust law, but if we're applying Ontario trust law and trustees can be held liable, which court would they be brought into if something were to happen?
They would,
That's Quebec.
it would probably be Ontario tort. And the reason is because of the different legal systems. Quebec is civil law, and the rest of Canada is common law. So it's just a bit easier to administer on the Ontario side, and the language barriers too between the French and English. We have those there. Don't care for this. Melissa?
If you were to hire trustees, would they be native?
They have to be, we mean trust administrator or community trustees. Our community trustees have to be members. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When you did this land deal, do you take into consideration all of Enniska? Because it was all our land, did all of our Enniska participate?
The referendum was open to all members of the community,
Only the community?
all members under the Akwesasne membership code, regardless of residence.
So you consider Dundee to be only belonging to the community, not the nation, not Enniska?
All persons of Akwesasne that are members on the Akwesasne membership code were eligible to vote.
Somebody saying community? No, you have 6,000 members, voting eligible members. How many voted in that?
Oh, I don't know the numbers.
We don't know the residency of people who voted. We don't keep that record, but we did do outreach to both farmhouses.
Yeah, I know that, I was the one that arranged for the teachers to come to our longhouse, when you went next to Wild Hills.
Yes,
And that was the night before, because we didn't really hear about everything until
people reached out to us. So on the night before the end of the voting, we had a meeting. And at that time, a lot of the people that voted no were told they shouldn't have voted no, because what they did was they reached the threshold by voting no. They shouldn't have voted at all. But anyway, but regardless of that, I just wanted to know if all of the new Mohawk were allowed to participate in this, and were they told?
As long as they were members of the under the Akwesasne membership
Just
code,
community.
as long as they were members, there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of people that identify as Haga that do have a membership status under the membership code. We don't have any way to differentiate that because we don't have a membership registry for Haga.
Okay, so have you received the money already?
Oh, yeah, that's, I mean, this is several years that we've had it now. So this was the presentation we're talking about is the structure to administer the money, investments and what's gonna happen.
Question then would be, is it worth it to sell all our land for 248 million?
It's not my decision. It went to community and the community voted on it. We're several years after the fact. It's been accepted at this point.
That's why I asked the question, because the land belongs to all the, not just the community, but us.
Yeah,
Just real quick, one clarification, she said sell it, but we're trying to buy it. So, which leads me to this question right here, it says, no consultation obligation for purchase of eligible land. So if there's 1,000 acres of land out there right now, whoever's in charge doesn't have to consult with the community about when about purchase. Is that correct?
I would say after the trust is, after we finish this process, yes, yes.
So we're not, what we're describing here is in process right now. This is not finalized, but this is where it's an update as to what's happening.
What's in process?
The development of a trust to manage the 239 or 237 million.
If it's in process, where is it?
The money's in the bank at the moment.
You're able
Yeah. Not Abram Bennett. but The Mohawk Council's bank account.
Ronnie?
Yeah, I identified over the years. Thank God it's small. And we have about 9 lots up there in Quebec. 9 lots. I think the largest one is the others are triangular shaped, pie shaped. They're really irregular. But anyway, nonetheless, when I sat up there with you guys, we had an individual that wanted to build up there. She ended up building in Snide practically in the market. So does that mean with this kind of money or with the money earned on interest, do we have to buy that land back too? That's IR 59, I think it's in Quebec, IR 59. Because I know, and you chiefs don't do it. I could drive up to Dundee land and identify 9 lots. And I identified the one that's 120 acres, and there's a farmer up there farming. So how do we buy back land that is supposedly ours already?
Yeah, well, the design of the claim is that we've lost the land and that they provide financial compensation for the loss. Now, it's up to the Mohawk Council and consultation people whether or not they want to buy that land specifically back, or want to invest it into other things or buy land other places.
So since you guys want to go off Quebec, Ontario, the whole length of the state, in Quebec, there's a land law. If somebody doesn't occupy that land, Quebec takes over. So did they take over our land in such a fashion of these lots? And raise your hand on council, you know what these lots are. All right.
Cheryl, did you have something?
No.
Okay.
Listen.
All right, we'll proceed with the presentation.
So, after all of the consultation sessions, the next slide on page numbers, the next slide showed all of the priorities that the community listed. This is what they want to see done with the funds. So additions to the reserve land acquisition is the biggest concern. And they wanted that highlighted and enlarged to say we need more land for Akwesasne. So in addition, there was green energy projects, infrastructure, housing, social welfare, health and wellness, environment, sports, sports recreation and or arts, advancement of culture, heritage and language, economic development, education or training, other essential public service, public safety, land management, and emergencies, and then in the pursuit of further indigenous rights. With
Question with regard to that big box there on land acquisition reserves, was that identified through the consultation that, MCA council can purchase without consulting members? Or is that something that came from outside somewhere? Does that come from the community?
is it in the?
It's stipulated in the settlement agreement.
Not that I recall.
Can you say that again, Captain?
Paula, we're looking at the, Cactus is saying it's a part of the settlement agreement. It was in the word of the settlement agreement, and Donna's just verifying.
Without consultation, I'm not.
We're not sure about, I know that the land purchase was definitely, it said right in the settlement agreement, that land purchase was a priority. Without consultation, I'm not 100% those words are in there, so they're just. It's 3.2, I think.
Go ahead, yeah.
Question, what are your rules on consultations and consultants for the MCA? How do you select your consultants? Because on Monday at the federal court in Syracuse, you had two new, what do they call them? Relevant decision makers.
So,
How did you select those people? How did you select people for that? You changed it from the last time to this time. How did you select the people? Did you select them on culture, language speakers, language, culture knowledge? How did you select them? And did the people agree to that?
I don't understand your question. Who, the MCA representatives?
The relevant decision makers.
Well, that's language that the court said that language, not us.
Yeah, but who selected those two people?
I don't know which two people you're referring to. Though.
You went in with two people on the land claim settlement agreement.
Oh, they're technicians. They're not doing.
And they.
But the relevant, wow. I don't want to dive into this too far, but we can go into business from the floor, but the relevant decision maker would have been me.
Okay, but in there, it said that these people were going to be, they were able to make the final decision on a settlement.
No, that's, no.
That's what it said.
There was names listed of people who would be attending, that's all.
No, you better read it out, it's different. You know, that's why I'm asking with reference to the Dundee, how did you select the consultants?
Consultants on what though? I don't, because you're making consultation with membership is one thing, but there are consultants that helped form the land offer and the settlement.
See, if we ask you a question and you'll tell us, you know, give us the answer, like you told me last time, I could go to Arrow and get the information. I went there and they said no. And I said, well, who's Abram Bennett?
Just a guy that gets blamed for everything.
That's exactly what happened though.
Yeah.
And that's why we need to know in a public forum, how do you select your consultants?
Yeah, so so the consultants to assist in specialized area are done by, you know, call outs and ask for people to assist in that. So if we're talking about lands, appraisals or what have you, then we get appraisers to do that. If we're talking about consultation, like what the bar is for consultation with the MCA and membership, there isn't a bar, right? It's basically determined by council. Which I'm not that I entirely agree with that. The only time when there has been is through settlements like the Dundee, where the government said you have to have a percentage of people vote, right? And so that is a bit of the bar on that, but council in, in their responsibilities, basically can determine, what should go to, consultation, how much consultation, and what would have less consultation. So there's not a policy on it, unfortunately. Well, there is, I mean, I can tell you that in experience, items of big issues, council talks about it a lot and we'll take these back to their district meeting. So there's processes in place, right? I mean, but there's no actual thing that says, if we're doing this, you have to talk to or get a vote or whatever of the community. There's nothing that says that unless it's stipulated in a law that says you have to go to the community for a vote or amendment.
Because I was surprised that your consultants had a land claim settlement agreement. That I know that they don't speak the language. They don't speak the language. They don't write the language. So, how do you select them? And the land is so important.
Yeah, we didn't have consultants at this last session, so if you're talking about two individuals or technicians that have their jobs in the MCA are to support the politicians in making decisions. And so that's what two individuals were at the session there. Go ahead in the back.
For the land acquisition. The Dundee land claim's been solved it's been in the make for 4 years. Is it 4 years?
I think the last appeal was wrapped up in 2019. 2019 or early 2020, and it's been in the bank since then.
Great. Has Mohawk Council been approached by an actual landowner offering up their land for sale? Or vice versa, has Mohawk Council approached landowners to gauge where they're, where they are with selling their land? Both ways.
In the Dundee area or overall?
In the Dundee.
We've had a couple inquiries over the years of people that want to sell their property, but none of them have come to any fruition. And most of them have been said that, we own this land, so we want to sell, so we want to move to a different area, and we want the original owners to, occupy the land. Have said that they would, but none of them have transpired.
What is the acreage?
Oh, none of them were significant, maybe 15, 20 acres. See, there's a lot, right? There's a lot tucked in there that we like, because if we start buying it up, then what's the process to allocate it to people in the community? And what's the process to serve it, right? Because then we're gonna have, potentially homes being built in the Dundee area, which is not a bad thing. But then, if their elders are gonna want community support, home support to support them, things like that. Like it's like buying it really is the easy part. Setting up the infrastructure and making the decisions, what's gonna happen, is kind of the hard part of this. And so that hasn't been, materialized too much, right? What we're talking about here is the money to buy it, but there's a lot of other elements to community expansion. And unfortunately, we don't have those plans on the shelf ready to say, here's 100 acres, we're gonna do this with it. That's a challenge with things.
My grandmother died last year, and she had land on Sacred Side. And we have, I think there's almost 100 acres of them now. But it's all parcels, it's not, say, this is one big piece of land, or, it's not, it's all possessing one big piece of land. I said, the Dundee land claims, it seems like, are more homes going to be pushed in the open, like buying a big swath of land instead of having all these chickens, you know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't make sense to buy 20 acres here, 10 acres, 50 miles down the road, is that part of somewhere that, like, I understand that you're selling 20 acres, but it's not close to our community, because that's what we would generally want, right? Is to have one big piece of land that we can develop all these things on instead of chickens.
There's no land acquisition strategy. That's,
Can I go back and answer Paula's question? So in section 3.2 of the Dundee agreement that we actually voted on, a priority for the use of the compensation balance is the purchase of land and will be acquired land to be set aside as reserve land of the Mohawks of Akwesasne pursuant to Article 5. So what we've figured out with our little brainstorm is the words in here are part of the trustee agreement. So prior, if you have an issue with those words, then say it, and then that'll influence council to not have that without the consultation of members. So, you know what I mean? There's still time to change that. And in addition to what Marlon was saying, that we can't do the chicklets, we can only do 6 non-contiguous portions of reserve. Other than that, we have to have 6 big portions. And a few years back, Mohawk Council was strategically trying to purchase land between here and Dundee. We purchased the McDonald's sister property in Bakey
And Bill,
and where?
Bell.
Billfell Estate. So we were slowly building a path to have everything touching to try and get out there. So we could think of the infrastructure, but to me, in my own personal opinion, like the pandemic really threw us for a loop, and now we're just starting to recover.
They're in the ADR process.
And they, as Cactus is saying, they are currently in the ADR process.
Right, at the back.
What boggles my mind is, how come, like, after all these years, everybody fighting for land. Okay, it got stolen from us. But why the hell these gotta pay to get it back? That's what I don't get. It's so easy for them to take it away from us, but you gotta pay to get it back. What is this? What's going on? What are you not doing right? That's what it is. You shouldn't have to pay to get land back that's stolen.
Yeah,
Even.
well, I mean, the process for settling the claims are what it is, and it's been go run by the communities. I mean, it's, yes, I don't disagree with you, but in this process that's been accepted by the community, then that's basically, if we want to have land in those areas, we have to buy it. Right.
It's interesting to hear that land has already been purchased by MCA with property acquisition. So that we don't fall into a situation where it's triplets here and there. But like, I really appreciate the fact that there's an opportunity for change to be made, that communities should be consulted before purchasing. Like the 3 parcels that have already been bought and it's in the return application process. For generations now and generations to come, to see what is it we own that we've already bought. At what point do you think we may be able to start looking at building houses there? Because they're, the 10, 12-year-olds now in 10 years may want to look at building a house over there. And these funds is something in which in the next 5 years, they should be taking an interest in how do we access the money from this to build the infrastructure there. But I also believe that through the settlement agreements, that funds can be used to buy land in Ontario. It's not restricted to the Dundee area.
It's not, it's traditional territory of Akwesasne. And I don't know, maybe this is politically incorrect, but I do think that we need to buy some properties in Cornwall just to be a thorn in their side. And to know that that was part of our traditional territory and we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I think that's to your comment, right? I mean, there has to be a strategy. There's got to be more comprehensive strategy on buying this. I do agree there has to be consultation with the community, but I think that there needs to be parameters as well. Because unfortunately, the way land works, right? If the MCA is looking to buy 500 acres of land in the Dundee area, and that's out in the public, and they're, prepared to do it in the next 6 months. I can tell you those prices are going to the roof, right? I mean, so like, there has to be strategic and land, the process has to be, relatively quicker than, 6 months. So I mean, there has to be some sort of flexibility in that. That's why I think a strategy needs to be developed, i.e., if it's 100 acres of farmland that, could be converted into residential homes and it's within, say, I don't know, X amount of dollars per acre, and you have this much money, then it's approved already by the strategy, right? So that can be executed quickly, because land is very valuable. People will up the prices, including our own people will up the prices. So I mean, we have to be careful on how, that it's approached. But yes, I agree that there has to be some consultation. Go ahead.
I wanted to answer her question, but I wanted to know why you guys didn't pursue it. We lost our land when we had Indian agents. And I'm gonna teach you a new land, and some people, a new word, and some people know what it is, know what it is, it's hypocrisy. And anybody understand? The Indian agents stole our land. They basically sold it at ridiculous prices. And there are lots throughout Dundee that are bigger than 5,000 acres. Those German farmers, the German farmers, I'm surprised Arrow doesn't get down there and do all this research. I'm surprised the Grand Chief doesn't go with the Liberal mayor in Dundee. Kind of give her a brief history lesson, or do I have to give her a brief history lesson? But I'm surprised you fail, or you don't have the expertise to answer the woman's question. Why? And she's right in what she's saying. Why do we have to buy it back when the Indian agents that we had over the decades, back in the 40s, 30s, back in the 20s, basically sold our land to his French friends in Hopkins Point, in Fraser Point. Fraser Point, there's a diary, and I'm sure Arrow must understand the diary that we found. We found it because one of our smuggling friends found it in the house. And the Fraser family, they came across from Cornwall, because there's a road called Fraser Road on 401, if you're going to Lancaster. Those Frasers, they stated they were gonna go across and take the savages' land. So when Minigaro says we're gonna get hot, I don't even pronounce it, but the white man pronounced that we're savages. Do you guys understand any of this? I mean, somebody raised their hand and said, yes, I do know the history. And it's been going on for the last maybe 40, 50 years. We're not researching our own history. And I'm surprised you don't have the ability, all of you, and the chiefs in the past, to sell it. I've been trying to sell it for the last 30 years. You gotta say, Mills, get lost. Now we're in land claims, and Minnie brought up a good question, and it's probably, I'll wait till business from the floor, but when I was sitting there with, at your table back in 2004, when we started negotiations, we all sat, we had a meeting prior to meeting the federal negotiators. And everybody in that room, the chief, it sounded like crying. We want the land back. We want the land. So we got in there, none of the chiefs did that. I raised my hand and said, you could give us $2 billion. We want the land. You know what the government said? We can do that. And then I said, and I said, if we want the land back, dig up your dead, take them out, because it's in the treaty. I see, that's another thing. Anybody go to Murchison Road? There's a cemetery there. Those people, when they were dying way back in the 1800s, they came to here to ask us if we could give them an acre or two to bury their dead. Now, when you go to cemeteries, you'll see names, Indian names. There's other cemeteries, there's Indian names. You know what the church is in Dundee Center? We walked it. We got in there and it's practically a grave digger, but we're reading the Indian names on the graves. I'm surprised you as council and you as Arrow don't pursue this. Instead, you pursue a Haudenosaunee narrative. And then you're in the land claims on the Seven Nations Treaty, but you're telling everybody, you're telling the world you're Mohawk. And did anybody know where the Mohawks came from? And I'm gonna let you in a little secret out, I didn't want to tell anybody. When they say in the land claim, future land claims of the Mohawk Nation, you know what else future land claim, the land claim is? It's in the Mohawk Valley. One of them is a word when you go down 81, and you're going in Saratoga into Clifton Park, it says, Karata Restaurants. That's an Indian word. That's a Mohawk word. That is the name of your patent that you sold to the Dutch that in turn gave it to New York State. It's roughly about 800,000 acres. Then you sold a third one. Then you sold a second one called Mohawk patent. That's about 80 acres. And then you sold another patent in the same area of the Ganawagi patent. So I'm giving you a history that New York State is withholding from you guys. So I'm trying to find out, where's the gag order line? Does the gag order line from New York State, you tell the chief not to tell us? Or does the gag order start from the Mohawk tribe, or the St. Regis Mohawk tribe, who's really a trustee, if you read the treaty, right? And are they enforcing a gag order on you guys? Because you guys never see anything. We're down in Syracuse, you say nothing. We get to Dundee Latin, you say nothing. This, I don't know which is worse, the hypocrisy that we put up with 100 years ago, or the silence, because you guys are screaming it.
Okay, thank you. Let's try to get through this presentation and we can take some questions after the presentation is complete. Okay.
I'm just a question, because I was at a couple of these consultations for the green energy. Remember we brought up that we wanted not just green energy, but energy too. You remember that? Because Pat, remember Pat brought it up 3 times?
Noted, they've heard you.
Go ahead.
That's my question. Is this in any priority?
The only, no, not in any kind of specific order, but just they wanted the land box bigger to stress the acquisition of it.
Okay.
Okay, next slide, Kyra, please. Transparency. So council must provide evidence of consultation with membership with each request every year. So before council allocates or requests any money from the trustees, they have to consult with membership every year before they go to the trustees and ask for the allocation. Trustees will provide council and membership with biannual reports with a copy of the investment reports. So unlike the last trust, we want to make how the money is doing public to the community so they know if the money's growing, if it maybe we lost a year due to a poor investment. Records documenting the management and use of trust property, including administrative costs. We've asked for administrative costs of the current trust to be broken down, and we've never gotten that request fulfilled. Summary of minutes of each meetings of the trustee as prepared by the administrator. Presentation on reports and management of trust property at general meetings. So the trustees will be required to come to general meetings and do a report on how this money is doing. So that's a part of the transparent process that we were lacking in the first trust. Council will provide trustees and membership with the report showing expenses against the permitted use. So like I said, when they put their plan in to spend the money, they have to show that they did what they said they were going to do when they requested. He had to stand up first.
Okay, go ahead.
When it comes to trustees, is there any way to put a rule in there that they're not somebody, because this is a big obligation, it's a big undertaking for somebody to get on this. I said, is there a rule that we can put on there that they're not on 40 boards, 40, committees?
That's up to
You know what I mean? Like where this is something that they need to be.
committed to.
Yes, and they're on the school board, they're on the membership board, they're on this, because we have people that are on every board, it's like, oh. Not my life, on every board. But like a rule when it comes to that, because I think they need to be focused on just this if they're trustee.
All right, thank you. There's another one in the back. No, we are.
I just need some clarification. This is council must provide evidence of consultation. each year funds that they're requesting. So is it only council that's gonna be requesting funds to be doing things, or?
Yes.
And is there any way presentations on reports and management of trust property at general membership and MCA council meetings as requested? You know how last year we had 4 general meetings not held? Where do we change that so that the law says you're gonna meet every month? Is it the
That's governance issue.
Governance issue, so I'm not sure. That answer was never given to me when I asked before, when we canceled July and August and then November, December. I'm like, you know, where do we go to make sure we meet every month? So the request goes from council to the trust to spend the money. And we're gonna spend money according to the consultation we had with the community and how it's identified in your priorities, your strategic plan for the comprehensive.
All of those items should be consulted prior to implementing anything. You know, we always have to refer back to the research and ask what we've asked the community what they want. It would make sense to do that. But that's a governance decision and not from administration. So. Go ahead. So, anybody interested in being a trustee? Let myself, Kana, or Akwesasne. So trustees, the trust must have 3 to 5 trustees appointed at all times. They cannot be a member of council or immediate family member of council. No conflict of interest perceived or otherwise. So if you brought up a child, even though you're not related by blood and you're that close, then that's a conflict of interest. Must sign a consent to act, complete trust training within 12 months of being appointed, have not been convicted of an indictable offense, tobacco-related offenses excluded. I mean, we all lived through the 90s, right? Has not been bankrupt or insolvent, trustees selected on internal technical team recommendation and appointed by council. So we'll vet your applications and then provide them to council for final selection. Trustee may temporarily fill vacant positions until the next appointment by council to maintain quorum, but they still have to meet the criteria. So general duties of a trustee: honesty, good faith, and standard of care. Trustees must exercise their powers and duties honestly, in good faith, and in the best interest of beneficiaries. They must comply with the trust. Trustees must follow the terms of the trust as set out in the agreement, stay informed in the affairs of the trust, and participate in decisions of the trustees. So basically, we're appointing them to make decisions, not to sit on fences. Independence and delegation: trustees are independent from council, administration, and beneficiaries, and are able to make independent decisions from them. So they need to make these decisions and shouldn't be influenced by other parties. So that is that was done by the lawyers who are helping us to establish the trust agreement. And then we did a really short one about the specific consultation. So, like I said,
when you go to identify what conflict or procedure or otherwise according to the financial administration law, who does the enforcement part of that?
who does the enforcement part of the law or anything? So if you have a conflict of interest, it's almost like a self-regulating. If you see a conflict of interest, say there's a conflict of interest in a council meeting. If you don't self-declare, then it should be another council member to say, hey, there's a conflict of interest here. Off reserve, if you follow maybe the meeting minutes of a council session in Cornwall, they have to, before the meeting starts, they're required to fill out a form and declare a conflict of interest. But what we have problems, what I've seen sometimes it's my third cousin 4 times removed, but it's a conflict. That's because I'm afraid to be held accountable for that decision. So there's when conflicts should be called and when they shouldn't. But they should by rights be fully documented. That way, if anybody's reading the minutes, they can say, hey, my brother went up for a housing loan and I was there and I voted on it. Well, no, that's a no. You know what I mean? So it should have been I should have been documented out of that section of the meeting. And that's again, a governance process that they need to work out.
So, do you pay the consultants? Are the consultants paid?
If there's a contract to do work by the Mohawk Council, then if you're contracted to do work, contracts are paid.
Are the consultants paid?
Are you talking just general consultants? Yes.
Can you say how much?
I did a report, it's in the package, are we talking lawyers, consultants, doctors, what are we talking about? Consultants are paid, there was 1.2 million paid to date this fiscal year in consultant costs.
Like our consultants?
There's 200,000 of it are Akwesasne. There was more consultants in there, but I was asked for Akwesasne consultants, not native consultants. There could have been more, but we don't ask our suppliers to self-identify. And now that that's come up, that's something that we're looking at to say, hey, we've done this much business local. Because it's not just consultants that we look for self, it's artisans, for gifts, for, for employee initiatives, that we do a lot of business with that. So now if this is something that they want to make a priority, then we're going to have to change up our financial system a little bit to be able to run that report and say, okay, we've done 1.2 million in business in Akwesasne. Because I know we do a lot of business in American Akwesasne. A lot of things easy to find, but Canadian Akwesasne is a little bit harder.
Okay.
Really awesome.
Okay, we'll go into the next presentation. Awesome.
Okay, so this is actually a summary of the community consultation session. So during the sessions, the standard agenda that was used, the team members, the actual number of sessions, and further consultation, consideration, and then our plan for the trust implementation. So for every standard agenda, there was a standard agenda used during the community consultation. And that was number 1, introductions to the internal technical team and advisor, history of the Duzela claim, following WLG community presentation, which I just did. Community consultation on the use of the trust interest. So the floor was open and information was taken in as to what you want to do with this money, what are your priorities. And then there was a general questions, comments, recommendations, and open discussion. Go ahead, Sarah. So the consultation team was Cheryl Jacob. She was our claim settlement coordinator. And again, I think she did a fabulous job. Donna Rompoint, Mohawk Council of Akwesasne, acting executive director. Chief Edward Rompoint, he was our link with council. Cactus Cook Sunday, Director of Justice. Cheyenne Lazor, she couldn't be here tonight because of family obligations. Myself, I was just a financial representative. Alvaro Welch, he was doing a lot of research on how the being a trustee would impact a community member. Cam Cameron is a lawyer to draw up the trust agreement, and Joshua Shoemaker is another lawyer. The consultation sessions, the St. Regis Rec was held on July 10th. The start time was 6:10, end time 8:45, 8 people in attendance. And then the last column shows the members of the ITT. Chiefs 9 at Recreation Center, July 12th, 6:05, end time 9:30, 25 community members. And the last column shows the members of the ITT. HUD in the HUD Training Center in Hoogan, July 17th. 6:23 to 8:20, 8 community members. OPG Visitor Center, July 20th, 6:12 to 8:36 community members. Gallinoga Recreation Center, July 26th, 6 o'clock start, 8:45 finish, 28 community members. So there was recommendations in the coordinators for further community consultations, recommendations of the ITT and a member of council to go on CKON for a couple of on-air engagement with the community, and then plans also include the development of an online survey with the communications unit, which I'm just surprising with you. So the trust implementation paragraph by paragraph trust agreement review with the internal technical team and advisors to consider community comments once again and council's input on the comments presented. So we've done one read through, we have one more read through that we're doing on March 26th, and then the recommendation for finalization is going to council. Complete a report or review with council of any inclusions from the internal technical team into the trust agreement from the community, questions, comments, and recommendations. Finalize the agreement, which we're hoping to have that in front of council for consideration by the second week of April. And then we have to start training, we have to find a qualified trust trainer and start training community members to be trustees. And then the coordination of the training will be done by us again. So application development for interested community members, call out for interested community members for training purposes, establishment of the trust committee policy procedures on vetting process for trust committee members, training timeframe for community members will need to be coordinated and set, and then update again at another general meeting.
So. Council, you asked, this is getting set about council consideration. I said, when it comes to the election law referendum, council had problem with the community participation, specifically the Grand Chief and Chief Benedict, they spoke up against it. Do you have a problem with the community consultation numbers for this project, considering this is equally as important as the election law? Do you think that even something people that participated is sufficient?
No, it's not about my individual opinion, and I don't vote on the resolutions either, so.
No, but the last time, you had a problem with the election law, it was, I believe, only something or 30 something people.
Well, there's 3 times the amount of people that are engaged on this one.
Say that again,
So there's 3 times the amount of people that were engaged on this one.
but it's still,
3 times the amount of people were engaged on this one. It's ultimately up to council where they want to go. And this kind of goes back to the question that was earlier, what that consultation level is. There is no metrics on what that bar is of how many people need to be the consulted or dialogue with on an issue.
so the election officer was sued because it was a consultation and it was, people showed up, right?
It's ultimately up to council.
Yeah, well, just trying to.
I'm not sure what benefit it's gonna have to continue to rehab that because it's done. I mean, it's ultimately up to council if they think that the 80-some people that were engaged upon in this process is adequate. But also what it's reaffirmed by is the several hundred that voted on the referendum itself, because there was a component in that overall education was that a process would be set up for the use of those funds. So it's not all entirely in the dark. There's lots of engagement has happened with the community on the Dundee settlement and on the use of its proceeds. Now, it's taken some years for us to get to this point, but a lot of things have happened in between.
But don't forget, we're doing further consultation before final decisions made. Hopefully, I'm thinking something on social media because that seems to be attractive.
Yeah, I think that this is probably 1 or 2 of the first reports back of what was heard based on, all of what you described, how much has been, has happened, but definitely is the first time that we're taking it back, so. Go ahead.
The consultations that were happening, there were reports done from each session. There was a question with regard to would we be able to receive the reports that were generated at each of the consultation sessions. We were told yesterday would be, but I've not seen one yet. So we just wanted information.
Yes, The answer to your question is yes, we did grab all of the data regarding all of the consultations. I did a first clean on it the other day. Donna's reviewing it and we're hoping to have it posted on the internet before the end of April.
When you say you did the first clean and then the second clean, what does that mean?
Well, it was done in a PowerPoint presentation, but we wanted a more formal report. So it was just a more formal narrative, just making it look more presented because it's hard, it was very hard to read. Not scrubbing the data or anything, just making it more
Not
presentable.
looking at anything else.
Yes.
Why they are, or what's happening.
Yeah, and getting rid of, and omitting all of the repetitions and stuff like that. So we're just cleaning it up to make it more readable.
Over here, back to,
Okay, since we're on the topic of the Dundee land claims and one was for, go with the other one. Is there any consideration from the finance technical team, Arrow, or the chiefs, or the grand chief at large? How does the George, what was his name here? Whitecaps. He had the Supreme Court said that the land was ours. How does that, and it should be researched by you guys, how does it impact the Dundee land? So I'm gonna ask the same question 3 months from now when you guys get together with your report on. I just wanna see if that's gonna be in.
Okay.
Because there's some serious stuff from the Supreme Court of Canada. Okay, thanks.
thank you. Okay, any other questions on this?
Is there a difference between advisors to your internal tech?
The advisors are the lawyers and then the auditing firm.
All right, up here in the front.
You might have missed it, but I remember when the sessions happened and it was going over like different areas that were gonna be potential, where the funds are gonna be used, and we were just kind of throwing everything on the wall to see what sticks. One of the things that I brought up was, yes, it's good to have this initial brainstorming ideas, but then also what funds, things are guaranteed from other funding sources that kind of solve some of those issues. One, I will know that will always be a financial black hole is like health. You can throw $1 billion into healthcare and you'll still need more money. It's just a bottomless pit. But in other areas, there are little to no funding. And I think that's just one thing like that would be part of the potential future reports as to what is already funded and what isn't funded. Because ideally, this is a piggy bank, and we want to make this piggy bank effective to fill in those gaps.
Right now, I think the most important service that we're offering in a community that receives very little to no funding is number one, our ambulance services. They get less, they generated about $700,000 last year, but they only get $100,000 in funding. They're not generating enough money to sustain themselves, but it's a key service that we rely on as community members. The other very unfunded program within the Mohawk Council is roads. We get $100,000 from the Ministry of Transportation in Ontario for roads, and that's it. So those are two key, everything else, administration, finance, HR, IT, no, there's very little funding because we have a very old funding formula. But if we do finish the self-government agreement, that's supposed to go up at least 10 times. But is that right for us? I don't know. As for a summary of everything else off the top of my head, it depends, because I believe we need to do an inventory of all of our services that we're providing and do a thorough look on where the money's coming from and is it enough to sustain in a long time. Because there's some, it's like, when we change mandates at the drop of a hat, we do what now? And when did you change that? Was that MCR? Who's funding that? Those questions, a whole thorough cleaning of the organization has to be done, so we know, and me and Shannon have talked about that for a long time.
Okay.
That's a whole other matter, so, I mean, you're more than welcome to come in and go to meeting if you want to talk about that further.
All right, any last questions on this presentation? We have one more. Thank you very much to the three of you for the presentation this evening. Okay, the next presentation that we're gonna do is an update on the fiber to the home project. So we'll invite the Director of Economic Development to provide us with that presentation.
Okay, ready? Good evening, morning. Good evening. Thank you, council, for inviting me today to provide an update. Thank you, community, for joining us. I first would like to say thank you for your continued patience with us. This has been a 3-year-long journey that we have been trying to connect our community with high-speed internet. So I will ask for questions to the end, and then hopefully, if I don't answer them throughout this presentation, we can address them. So to reintroduce myself, I'm Kylie Tarbell. I'm the Director of Economic Development. So I have two big updates for today, because to answer hopefully 2 questions: when are we getting connected, and when are our yards getting fixed? So hopefully I will do my best to answer those. So here is a map of the current status for Enníska and Kana. So as the lines indicate, the green lines, the backbone, which is the main roads, as well as the last mile, those are going down the driveways for the connections. All of that work is complete for both districts. So just to give you an idea, we currently have 29 kilometers of fiber installed in both of those districts. So currently, right now, we are installing the service boxes on your house. That is what's actually going to connect the line from the driveway to your home. Next slide. We are currently on Cornwall Island. So Cornwall Island does have more land mass. We are currently going to be installing 52 kilometers of fiber cable. So to give you an idea, we have 81 kilometers of fiber in our community. So that's actually pretty extensive. We have some pretty long driveways in our community. So to give you an idea, 81 kilometers is essentially from here to Burlington away. Past Ottawa, past Montreal, almost to Watertown. So that's actually pretty significant considering our 3 districts, you know, and the locations of our households. Additionally, for Cornwall Island, 46% of our community anchor institutions are located in that district. We have classified our anchor institutions as our businesses, nonprofit organizations, community buildings, as well as MCA facilities. So again, Cornwall Island has a little bit more connections to make in that district. The map indicates, so the green on the west end, that indicates the backbone, again, all of the main roads, as well as the driveways for those who have signed up with us. Those are all complete. And we just made it past the corridor area, moving our way west. Another, not necessarily issue, but another activity that's been taking us more time is Cornwall Island actually has more utilities underground throughout the residents and such. So we actually have to do locates. We didn't have to do that as much in the other 2 districts, whereas here we actually have to contact Bell and other service providers as well to come in. So at times we are at the mercy of external companies. However, we are trying to, as much as possible, do that service with the capacity that we have hired. So here's the fun slide. So I have it broken down into 2 sections. There's the gray section and then the purple section. So the 3 gray areas, those are the 3 areas where we currently do not have any barriers or delays. We are just progressing with the project. So we are still continuing our main cable splicing. We are anticipating to be concluded about end of April. As well as installing the service box, on homes and the installation. And that is throughout all 3 districts. So our goal is to have, especially in Satan's 9, to have those completed by June. And we essentially have teams running. So as soon as the lines are down your driveway, we're installing the box at the same time. And then, of course, conclusion, the last mile, those are the independent, runs down the driveways. So we are anticipating to have Island concluded by, mid to end of July. Now, the purple area, this is the new information to share. So to give you some background information, when SIBC, redid the bridge for the low bridge, they actually installed and assigned a conduit specifically for Akwesasne to have, that connection point of internet. So we're finally there. We have finally reached, to the point where, SIBC has allocated and we entered into an agreement with them, which, was just passed Monday through resolution. So with that being said, our next steps with that is working with SIBC to access that conduit. We also have to install 2 pieces of equipment, one located on Cornwall Island side, as well as one on Cornwall side. We have to install 2 cabinets. So we have to work on timelines with SIBC because for the underground bridge. So we are hoping to have that done as soon as possible. That is our #1 priority. So as soon as we can have access with that work, because SIBC does have to be present while we conduct that work. But our goal is to have it done in March or April. So as soon as we have the conduits and the vaults installed, vaults or cabinets, once they're installed, we run that line. Then we call in the connection people, and essentially they're gonna run speed tests, make sure everyone's fully connected, making sure everything works. And as soon as we are successful with that, Saint and Sign and those who are in the green and are registered, signed up with the internet service provider, you will be lit. So, we are anticipating the initial, network initialization to take about 2 to 4 weeks. But again, we're currently planning all of this out to make sure everything falls in line simultaneously and there are no gaps in timelines. So again, as soon as we can get, the lights on, those who are registered, you will have internet. So for landscaping. So we did run into some troubles over the summer trying to accommodate all of, the yards. We have to come back and we have to clean that up. It was just very difficult because, we were trying to continue installing the line. We couldn't do both simultaneously. So we chose to continue running the line. We do apologize. So what we are going to be doing is we are going to be issuing an RFP. We do have 4 registered landscapers in the community. So we're really hoping to work with them to bring them on to assist with the landscaping for all 3 districts. So right now, I do have some sheets. I mean, everyone's yard is going to be assessed. So it's not necessarily, if you sign up or not. Everyone's yards, when we get the landscapers, procured, we are going to be working with them. Everyone who has signed up, we have the civic addresses to ensure everyone is looked at. It's just some areas have, more damage than others. So again, we're gonna have to do assessments and seeing, where are we starting and things like that. So when we have more information, once we have our landscapers hired, we will be issuing this information on our social media and such to ensure everyone is aware. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to the back for a question.
Once this underground spider web was all over Akwesasne and it's connected to the homes, people are gonna have to pay a bill, right? Correct. And who do they pay it? Or maintenance?
Well, right now it's an internet service provider. So right now, for the project, Mohawk Council of Communities, we own and operate the network itself. So, but we cannot also be the ISP, the internet service provider. So for the interim, we do have an external internet service provider. We are still seeking others. We do have, Roger's cell phone tower being, installed for SNIDE as well. So we are doing our best to provide different options.
Yeah, but are the people who are gonna benefit from this, like, say I have to pay you a bill of $200, and where's that money gonna go?
So,
Wanna go to the white man?
so two folds. So first and foremost, with us owning the infrastructure, we can also assist with the oversight of cost, right? So they can't come in here and charge $200 a month, right? It has to make sense. But secondly, they have to pay fees. So, you know, we both would be benefiting.
In the front and then in the back.
What was installed, the fiber installed was done using an open network. That's how we got the funding. It's called an open network. So it's not stopping any others that's wanted to start their own ISP and operate over that. So it's a young entrepreneur out there who, or if there's already somebody who's already dabbling in it, nothing from stopping them from offering services over those lines. Anybody can provide that service and collect the payment. So it's a good employment opportunity for someone if they want that.
This project's been hell. With deadlines, missed deadlines. The community, my friend Ryan here, that's his number one topic, is the fiber to the home. And we asked the chiefs, and they say, well, we sent Kylie an email, she didn't get back to us. There's like a mutiny, no communication. And every district meeting, our chiefs get bombarded with questions about this project. And they say, well, we sent Kylie an email and she didn't get back to us. This project's been going on a long time. It's like a lot of questions are unanswered. Like, I appreciate the presentation. But the thing is, like, why is all the information right here real nice and pretty? But like the previous times when council was asked for information, it's all Kylie doesn't get back to us.
I have disclosed the information as I've had it. So this project is very complex. In reality, yes, we are doing maybe 5 reoccurring activities, right? Laying the conduit, doing the conduit first, running the fiber, connecting it, running to the house. It sounds very simple, but let's remember, we started this project in 2021 when the pandemic started. So it wasn't just Akwesasne who needed internet, it was the whole world. Rohana and I have encountered so many barriers, right, with this project. We have had to invite the manufacturing companies to the community, right, to show them the importance and how isolated we are. We made sure we did as much networking and information to the external companies to make sure that Akwesasne was in queue. Because in the grand scheme of things, right, when you're up against Rogers, Bell, these large national companies who serve not just small communities, but provinces, they're in queue too, right? So we really had to do a lot of that networking, Zoom calls, literally driving. I mean, the world was shut down and we were running internet. We were installing internet. There was nowhere else in the world who was doing what we were doing. Rhonda and I were meeting contractors and driving them through customs to transverse them, but no one else could get through customs. So there's a lot of things that Rhonda and I had to do, right, to ensure that we got to this point. You know, with manufacturing, you know, when the whole world is looking for fiber, like pre-COVID, we could have easily accessed fiber. I mean, 81 kilometers of fiber we had to purchase, 81 kilometers. That's crazy for our area, you know, that's incredible, you know, for our community. That's how much land, you know, for our zone. You know, so there's been a lot of things, right? And even with the government, we have had to do our own negotiations, and they have had nothing but turnover after turnover. So every time Rhonda and I would take 5 steps, you know, and get to a good place with the funders, they would have a turnover, and we would have brand new people, and we would have to start all over again, right? So I know there's a lot that we haven't showcased, but that was, you know, our barriers that we were overcoming to deliver this project for you. So listen, we are just as antsy and excited to have connectivity, because the amount of opportunities that we will have once we're connected is going to be incredible. Our entrepreneurs are going to be able to flourish, our education, our access to medical. So I know, I understand the frustration. We have been there too. We have had a lot of restless nights, long nights, you know, working when, you know, days off. Rhonda and I were in the office, you know, ensuring that this project would continue. You know, so again, we are there with you in the car with the frustrations. Allie's there. She was in my office at the time. You know, there's so many moving parts. You know, we did water crossings. You know, because the most important thing is we did not, and you know, to kind of circle back to your question, our biggest and most important aspect was ensuring that the community owns this infrastructure, that it would not turn into another situation where an external organization or company would own and tell us what we can and cannot do. That is why we are underground. We are not on any poles, because it would have required us to access, we'd have to obtain permits. And we said, why are we asking for permission to run our own infrastructure? So that was a big driving factor. So decisions, you know, and actions that we were doing was to ensure the integrity of the infrastructure.
Go ahead.
Did you study the danger zone of this big spider web under the ground? We got this big spider web up in the sky, and look what it's doing to our weather. Now, you think about this, it's all under our ground. What's it gonna do to our little insects and our worms and stuff? There's vibrations. You know, it's gonna go all over.
An environmental assessment was conducted, and those, you know, those issues, but again, happy to sidebar and have a discussion.
Okay. Go ahead.
How many employees are installing these?
We currently have 10 technicians.
So, going the line?
Yes.
All right, they were going, in Snyder, they were going from one box, 400 yards, to another box. There were 4 guys standing at one box, 4 at the other end, and all they were doing was running that thread to pull the real wire. All you need is 1, 2 guys, spread them out, it might be done in July.
So yes, thank you for that comment. When we originally started, we did have that. The longer the driveways are, the more people that are needed, because the fiber is actually glass. And when we were running the cable on, oh my gosh, you're in Snyder, Wade LaFrance
There's
Road,
no paperwork, it's wrong. Show me one paperwork, it's not.
the fiber cable is through the conduit.
The one from my house is all string,
Yes,
and I could be ready in July.
correct, yes, so as,
That string ain't gonna run the internet. If you do that, it will. If that string gonna run the internet.
do you have the black box on, the box on your house?
It's not there yet.
Nobody thinks I have a mom.
So yes, that's what we're doing now. We're installing those kits on the homes. So we do have some installed. So what we're doing is those kits get put on the house. And there's fiber and we are leaving slack on there. So some of them do have the boxes zip tied and such on their residences. And then that's how they're connected. I'm sorry, I can't really hear. Am I answering your question or no?
Not really.
Okay, so I'm like, here.
All right, are there any other questions on this presentation? All right, okay, thank you so much for, oh, one more before you go there.
So I'm just trying to figure this out. So are you saying, according to this information, is that we're looking to get our internet by August, September?
Our goal is to have, as soon as we run the conduit or the fiber, excuse me, under the bridge from, on Cornwall Island, you know, into Cornwall, that's the connection piece. So we're hoping to have that done as soon as possible, March, April, that is our immediate next steps. 2 to 4 weeks following that, so we're actually hoping June, July to have everyone turn on.
Who's gonna service it?
Yeah.
The infrastructure,
Yeah, like if something happens.
so that's, we have the trained technicians, so the community members currently who are working on the project, they are trained and certified, so yes, they are also going to be working on, so in the event that there's a break or anything, yes, they are trained to do that. As well as MCA's IT also received training.
The spine that's coming through, how much does the MCA have to pay for it?
Nothing, it's 100% funded through the grant. Well, for the construction of the project.
That's up until the end of this year? And then how much do we have to pay after that?
We don't have to pay anything, we would only have, we have to pay for maintenance and upkeep, so if there's any damage, to anything. But, we do have cable and such, set aside, so we do have a little bit of wiggle room. So if there is damage to the fiber line, we can replace it.
So Rogers isn't going to charge a connection fee to the MCA?
Rogers,
Forever, because you're gonna be, all the, internet users are going to be plugging into the spine. So that's gonna all be free forever?
no, so the external service providers, so Rogers, Bell, whomever, they would actually have to pay us a fee to access our line. So that's how that works. And then what, you receive a bill from that individual service provider.
Where does the connection go after it leaves the res?
So the connection is actually in Cornwall. And from there, it'll to Toronto.
To Toronto,
Yes.
but that doesn't access the res.
Yes, we'll have access. So everyone here, that's the connection point. Right, so, Saint and Snide, they don't have an external connection point. We had to do a water crossing to Cornwall Island, and then the connection is in Cornwall to Toronto.
So everybody from Cornwall to Toronto will access this?
No, this is no, that is just to get connected. This is for community only. This is only in the community. This is only for the community. This isn't for, we're not building infrastructure in Cornwall, right? We're not connecting any homes there. This is just for our three districts.
Go ahead.
With respect to what you said earlier, the infrastructure, the main line that's coming in. If there's an issue with it, you have technicians that are trained.
Correct.
So if I have an issue from the main line to my house, do I contact ADJOURNMENT or do I have to contact one of the technicians? And do I pay you or do I pay them?
So that's currently what we're figuring out with the terms and conditions of our grant. Because Mohawk, because with the grant, there's like a 5-year period, so that's what we're trying to clarify right now. Who's responsible, et cetera. So Paula, when I have a clearer answer, I will provide a notice. So.
Yeah, but I think it generally, to the homeowner, there wouldn't be any cost, right? So like, the homeowner is paying a service provider, whether it be Rogers or Bell or some link, for the internet at your home. It's just, so when something happens to it and it goes out, you call a provider and then they will figure that out,
Is that
right?
what
So
you're saying, or you mean if something breaks?
If something breaks, the backbone. the
That's
backbone
not
that's
the-
running.
so what she's saying, she'll have to figure that out, but to the homeowner, there's no cost, right?
Yeah, so what, okay, so yes, backbone, we are responsible for Mohawk House. What we're trying to determine is the last mile. That's
So from the.
from the road to your
From
driveway,
the
down your
road
driveway.
to my house.
Yes.
That little black box.
Yes,
So that's something where as the homeowner, I'm responsible for.
that's what we're determining. Yes, yes,
Are those lines waterproof?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
even the bottom, but it's not, some of them were halfway under the water.
Yes, we accounted for that because of Snide on the marsh. So yes, it is waterproof.
Okay, all right, thank you. One more on this and we're moving along.
You're gonna provide the connection, but the programming. The people have to buy the program, right?
Correct. They do have to sign up to access the service.
On the American side, the federal government allows homeowners free access to the internet, the basic internet, and then you had to buy the program. So our charge went from $116 a month to $288 a month. Because when you buy DirecTV and stuff like that, you gotta pay for that. And right now, the connection is free. But when it runs out, like it's running out now on the American side, when that runs out, the people gotta pay. So at that point, we paid $288 plus $75.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you so much for sharing the update with us this evening. Okay. Okay, time check, we're at about 7:45, so we have about 30 minutes. We'll go to business from the floor. Got no time for it? We're going to it right now. Yes. Go ahead.
Hi. I just got a question. I have one supervisor, I just want to know what the policy is for hiring non-aides. Are they indefinite hires or are they term?
I don't know that answer offhand. Can somebody from administration answer that?
Right now, the policy states, right now, the preference hiring policy states all jobs are posted. And if a native passes the interview and a non-native gets a higher score, the native will be hired. Doesn't have to be Akwesasne. But if there's only non-natives applying and they pass, it's a permanent hire.
Can you clarify permanent versus indefinite?
They're the same thing. It's just a different, we started using the term indefinite, but there is no indefinite position. Because a funding source could go away 1 year and then we would have to provide severance, adequate severance. So there is no such thing as permanency. That's an old notion.
Okay.
So just confirm you still have a proper rental hiring policy in place.
Yes, thank you. Over here, no, back over here, then we'll go to. back.
So I just took a minute to read these reports of the chiefs. But my number one concern right now, I'm hoping to get an answer from tonight, in light of, I came around the corner earlier today, and the fire trucks were flying down the hill here, going over to what's Leo. What is the, and based on these reports of the chiefs, I have several questions. But my number one concern is the laneway negotiations at what's Leo. It's been going on close to 2 years. What's the progress going with the family on settling that? We only have one means of egress to get in and out of there. When those fire trucks, 2 big fire trucks, barely made it around this corner, flying over to what's Leo today. I want to know what's going on with the negotiations and who's on the team with that family. I asked this question probably a year ago in a meeting, and it was brought up again. I believe at the Gowinoga district meeting, when it was open for a couple of days, and I asked if any money, if the family received any money. I believe your answer was no. So I think that was only open for an emergency situation, but who's on that negotiation team and can give us an update on that? Then my next question is, the Supreme Court intervener case that's reported by one of the chiefs, what is the case that's being, that we're considering intervening on? Then the next one is, under nation buildings, the Akwesasne lands definition review. Are we privy to see what these definitions could look like when we're talking about definition of lands, defining lands? The only reason I'm asking that is because of what's going on with Dundee. When we talk about purchasing land off territory with zoning laws. So how does that impact us in the future if it's under a nation building process and they're defining lands? My next one is, why are community members needing a letter of support for over Jordan's principals clients when it deals with our children? So what kind of letter of support are we needing to hand in to Jordan's principals? They just put it on the radio, get all these kids to sign up for little NHL to get them some money for that. So I'm interested in why chiefs are signing on letter of support letters. This Indigenous fire marshal, fire safety assessment of what, the buildings, or is it on policies and procedures? So I guess the point I'm trying to make here, some of your reports from council, if we ask for you to elaborate in this type of forum, which obviously Abram right now, we're probably going to vote past 8 o'clock to get some answers, because it took me a little bit to try to read this to stay abreast of what was happening on this side of the world too. Did MCA develop a position on the new air products company in Messina that Alcoa were going to dump into the river? And did you guys submit to the DEC that they extended the deadline on the position you're taking as leadership to that new company that's going to open and dump toxic carcinogens into the river again? We just cleaned up our river, or we've attempted to clean it up. What proposals on land are currently before the property acquisition team? Noted that in one of the chief's reports. The community would probably like to know what's sitting there, what kind of proposals. We're talking Dundee land, what's happening in our backyards right now, or in front of our property acquisition team. And then the last one is toll fees. It's reported in one of the chief's reports, toll fees. What is this, and where are these toll fees being considered or discussed about? I know there was a lot of questions. I know it's recorded. Hopefully I can get at least the first question answered on the lane for there. What's the, thank you.
So the short answer of that, there is no negotiations going on, but there is an alternate route being planned. And so the second question on the intervener case, I think that's probably the last presentation we had. There was a request from some lawyers that are working, looking to see if the MCA would intervene on a discriminatory human rights case, a constitutional challenge regarding the sentencing of an individual for some crimes, so that it has to be further reviewed. The definition of the Akwesasne review, I we'll have to see what the members of the Underwood Ducks we have on relations to that. I know that they are developing an education campaign. The Jordan's principal letter of support, for some odd reason, let's just make it clear, Jordan's principal is a program of the federal government, and the MCA takes applications on behalf of members and submits them to the federal government for funding. So the letters of support are pretty routine that the applicant, and part of their application to the government, asks for a letter of support from the Mohawk Council. Right, so the MCA doesn't approve the Jordan's principal applications. We have a Jordan principal program, but it's just to support members to apply. We'll make that clear. On the thing for Little NHL, we were a bit surprised ourselves because we do know that there's a number of applications that are outstanding. Again, it's the federal government that has approved those, but that Little NHL one would be considered a group versus, you know, the mom with a child that's an individual. So just some context in that. Indigenous Fire Marshal, I believe, is just there's some work that we're portfolio is doing around looking at what a system or department structure could look like around fire department, and how we can support that in Department of Public Safety and what that looks like. That's just the conversation that's been happening. The air products, after that was raised at the last general meeting, we did send a letter directly to the agency responsible, and it basically outlined the information that was provided by the MCA, and I think it may have been Dr. Horn may have been identified as providing us that information about those concerns. So we used that statement by Dr. Horn to formulate an actual letter to the EDC, or I don't know, maybe don't quote me on EDC. So that went in, that was sent in to the agency. And the PAT, I don't know, I do know the toll fees. The SIBC toll on Cornwall Island is going to be raising their toll. I don't know how much, but probably April 1st. Got an email from them saying, we want to meet with you because we're going to be increasing the tolls, and when they do that, we'll send an nasty letter to them, condemn them for that.
Ask for some of it.
Yeah, ask for the increase, right? So I think that's covered most of your questions.
On the PAT team, the bids of the report, do you have any proposals in front of you right now?
No, I don't have any proposals, but we commonly entertain some proposals that come in a letter. They're not really a formal one. It's just under discussion right now until a formal letter submitted, a letter of interest to sell, and then we entertain it, and then we take it seriously, and then we start doing our investigation on if we're gonna buy it or not.
Right? Good. Okay, in the back, and then we'll come to the front here.
As a community member, I'm very appreciative of the administrative people that visit us tonight. You know, it would be nice if at district meetings, or even at this meeting, at the general meetings, that somebody of importance would be here to answer a lot of questions, particularly administrative, because a lot of times we're stuck in the weeds at these meetings because somebody's talking about administration issues, and the chiefs are just sitting there like, I'll get back to you. It's put on something else. So it would be nice if, you know, one of our directors would be at district or general meeting to answer a lot of questions that normally these people don't have an answer. So please consider that.
Okay.
Can I make a comment, Richard?
Yes.
We are planning a rolling open house, so we do go in front of all the communities. We're planning an open house on Cornwall Island. We're planning a open house down here to make ourselves upfront and available to community members who have questions for us. And that is true, you know, we do provide foreign services to the community, and we should be accessible. One of the other, then we are one of these not. Instead of just being in one district, we want to do it and meet for all the districts. I think everyone wants to do some cancer screening there and just be available. But we are also looking at It's something else than just laws. But we are planning on housing to be more available. Directors were talking about implementing an open door policy. So for the planning committee, come on in, we have to be more open and transparent. But I am behind those doors. So we realize that we're going to do our bios, put them on the internet, put our contact. I really want better than you know. I want to, maybe not answer your phone call, but I'll answer your email. And just make that available.
Thank you. We're over here and then we'll come.
Good evening. Just a few quick things. I do apologize. I was talking to a colleague. We were in an academic dishonesty issue, and it was a student that was trying to pass off mediocre work that they bought from another student, and so we were trying to figure out sanctions. Should that apply to the one who handed it, but also apply to the one who sold it? So maybe just think about that next. So I know there's the ethical conduct law for council, and what I saw as a potential from earlier presentation around trustees is all the way back to the original community trust that we're talking about is they didn't want council to kind of have the chance of bullying trustees to fall in line for certain things. So with the ethics process, kind of maybe make clear, defined guidelines and rules for what council members can and cannot do when kind of, for either administration or dealing community members, and kind of, making sure everybody understands the rules when it comes to ethics violations. Is that a chance to be reviewed this chapter?
In relation to the development of the next trust or overall?
Just overall, but with the mindset of dealing with trust.
Well, I know that in the trust development, there's been a lot of things learned from the existing one that kind of lessons learned have helped guide some of the work they're doing. But it's definitely something that can be further looked upon, because I know that in the existing trust, there's the overseers and they have a function and they're kind of like a bit of a buffer type thing. So, it's definitely something that can be further looked at.
And I know from the election law, because, we have one version of election laws and the, what I could read from the ATIP for the election law MCR, it did say that under future further discussions, the other issues that was raised by the community, is that going to be entertained anytime soon? Or is that just gonna have to wait till the next council?
They'll have to wait till next council.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then I would like to submit a potential addition, if the community members here would like to possibly have further discussions as to, we do have the clause that kind of allows a council member to kind of forego legal if it's in defense of community rights, particularly when it comes to border crossing rights or being able to transport things. I would just like to maybe, the community could agree that anybody who had any connection with human trafficking and being that issue to the community, kind of, that could be one of those things that are clear defined. That is not something that's seen as permissible in support of the community's rights to transport things across the border. So, as a comment. Also with the ethics, is there any current ethics issues or court actions that any member of council is currently in right now?
Yes, there's one that's against me.
Okay, so there will be a court process with that?
There's a process and it's underway, yes.
Okay. So maybe just letting the community know when that court session happens, if it's public.
It's up to the Akwesasne court to make that determination.
And I remember on the last general meeting, there was an understanding that regulations would be available on websites. So you had mentioned previously that there was certain regulations on or not. That maybe be a council item that regulations regarding ATIP and law enactment process regulations be available on the website for transparency.
Yeah, well, note your request again. I'm not sure why it's not happening, but note it again. I can't do everything.
Well, you said you have a team.
I don't know if they know how to post things on the website, but we'll get it done.
With that, was there also any clarity on the confidentiality in the redaction process?
No, there hasn't been anything on, no action on that. In relation to the ATIP request, is that what you're
I
referring
need
to?
to request, but also how one of my comments from the, it was the October general meeting, when the recording was removed and then edited, so, what was the process of removing my comments?
I don't, so there was some information that was discussed at that meeting that was, identifiable to an ongoing, case, not case, but client file, and so that information was censored. Now, if you had spoken very close to that area, it was not intentional that you would have been censored out.
I was talking very general terms.
No, but I mean, as far as timing wise, if right before you spoke, that other conversation occurred, it's perhaps that the overlap happened a little bit.
Okay, well, there were other personal comments that were still captured.
Okay, well, it's not a perfect process, so, and somebody has to, you know, sit there and identify it all. So, rest of you, but. Did you want to talk about the ATIP thing or?
Good evening. With regards, you can hear me, but with regards to the ATIP regulation, the one that was passed in 2004 by MCR, we will put that on the MCA website. Keeping in mind that we are updating that ATIP regulation, and it takes a very long time because we have to consult with each department director and managers, and because some of them have to follow some specific privacy guidelines as subject area that they work on. So we can put the 2004 regulation on the website. That's what.
Thank you, Adele.
Thank you.
So just last three quick little, questions around updates. Is there any updates on the New York State claim?
Yeah, so there was I don't know what it was called, but on Monday, there was a hearing in Syracuse, New York, where the parties came together. It was a 20-minute court session with the judge giving judge giving some commentary around needing to have some sort of pathway forward, which was followed by mediation sessions between the parties facilitated by mediator, and the court has issued some timelines for status reports, one of them being March 8th and then the other one being May 8th. So there seemed to be some thought that this was a final signing meeting, but that never was the intention. In fact, because there hadn't been an in-person session with the judge in a very long time, these have been occurring, basically the same thing has been occurring on Zoom. The judge wanted to bring the parties together and to give some instruction that, you know, there needs to be progress. So that's what happened on Monday. With respect to the claim overall, the parties have to come to a final draft settlement in the next couple months, and then you know, move towards some sort of acceptance process.
So MCA's position change?
As of right now, no, it hasn't.
And was there any other directions from the judge to the parties?
The set new, those two dates that I've referenced, the March and the May.
And EP search, is there any progress in that?
There was a committee assigned by council and they have made a recommendation to council. Council accepted the recommendation, and there's a process underway right now to extend an offer and see if the candidate accepts.
Okay. And last one is just from earlier, there was just a comment around Dundee's video. Coincidentally, I had an appointment there not that long ago. Apparently something was going on. I just walked right in, but I felt like I was walking into Fort Knox all of a sudden when saw my appointment, and then apparently I just joked, "What is this lockdown?" And people got very serious and concerned, and I was just like, okay, why wasn't me as a community member walking into a potentially dangerous situation happen at that particular time where I saw MCA employees running around, but well, you know, there wasn't clear communication for a community member who potentially could walk into a situation at that time.
Well, thanks for sharing that. There are processes in place that when administration or there's concerns around safety for the community or for the staff, that certain things, actions are taken. And so we'll note your concern a little bit of communicating that to people coming in at the facility as well. Okay. And behind you, Mr. Sun, there, and then Cheryl. And then in the back.
Two questions. On this, New York State settlement thing, let's talk about who's got standing. Now, it was filed by the bank council, not the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne. Not the Sacredest Mohawk tribe, who was the Sacredest tribe way back when. And the Mohawk Nation Council of Chiefs, I think they came into action around 2002 with a letter from some lawyer in Washington. Anyway, who is taking the lead? You guys, the tribe, certainly not Mohawk Nation. And the second question is, why are we not allowed to have a referendum when we're battling the referendum that they want to take in 2004? I mean, that's Jim Ransom's deal. I mean, they're doing it on the tribe. Why are we not holding the referendum? My kids did vote for that referendum in 2004. Marlon left. He didn't vote for that. There's others in this room. Why and if the settlement affects all of us, why can't they vote? Where's the reason or the insanity or both? Why can't I do it?
Yeah. So to your first part, I mean, the three parties that are involved is the Sacredest Mohawk Tribe, the Mohawk Council, and the Mohawk Nation Council of the Chiefs. They are the three plaintiffs in the action itself. So arguably they all have equal standing per se. Council has, so just back up a bit, the settlement itself, the elements that were considered in the previous referendum are very similar to the same elements that are now being proposed. That's around the 9 megawatts, the education, the understanding of those lands, the compensation, the island access to the two islands there. So the elements that were in the original settlement that was voted in the referendum still continue to be basically the same elements now. So our council has said thus far that we won't proceed to a referendum because those elements seem to be the same. I know that's not what everybody wants to hear. The other thing is too, though, is that it is a bit strategic because we want to make if you look at the settlement as a whole, the major part of the settlement itself is the return of the triangle, the understanding of the return of the lands in the different parcels, the foregoing of debts or tax bills that are owed, and so an acknowledgement or recognition of the jurisdiction over that land. And as it is now, the tribe exercises that jurisdiction over that land. So any of the lands that are talked about in the settlement are not under the Mohawk Council's jurisdiction. And so the direct benefits that come to arguably the members of the northern side are the education benefits, the benefits of the access to the island, and perhaps sometimes down the road, the power benefit, and plus the money that's being proposed. So just looking at, who received the most benefit overall, it is, arguably members under the Sacredest Mohawk tribe. No, I mean, I'm giving you, I'm telling you what we're thinking about on this, right? I mean, if there were to be a referendum, it'd have to be a community-wide referendum of all three parties have to agree, right? I mean, because, when you think about it strategically too, we've settled, $300 million in claims and other parties were not involved. And is it, is it fair for the MCA to dig heels in and on a claim that the most beneficiary is the one that are the jurisdiction over the land, and that's the tribe, right? I mean, so we're struggling a lot with this, right? And so there's, you know, I mean, as the time goes on, there has to be a final settlement, and all those parties will have to determine how they will approve that settlement, right? And thus far, right now, the MCA has reaffirmed that they won't have a referendum. Now, it could change when that final agreement comes, is the court has asked for it to be in the next, you know, sometime between now and May. You know, so it's really a moving file, you know, and there is a lot of mounting pressure on other parties to have referendum or some sort of community vote. We'll be having information sessions going forward to educate people on it, but that's the high level.
Going back to the 2004, I was on top. And when you accepted the results, when there was 200 or 300 for, 200 against, there's a glitch in there. I know we're in court, but there's a glitch in there. I'm just going to give you a warning. Because it happened to be on other issues. So when you guys are in the business of having an MCR, let's be very careful. We know which MCR you asked, we know how you asked them, and we know what thresholds you didn't meet. So does that make an MCR legal?
So back to the point earlier of what that consultation policy is, there's not one of the MCA, right? So before the MCA makes a decision on issues, it is the council's, you know, that decides how much consultation will be had, right? And what that venue will look like. There's not a, you know, there's not a chart or a metric that says, okay, we need this decision, this is what we have to do to get to it. The only time that's been is when the external government has said we have to, i.e. meet a threshold of people voting. And so that's how it is right now. Sure.
I overlooked one, so we were talking about trust, so the Akwesasne trust settlement. There was a discussion January 26th noted in Dwayne's report. What changes are being considered for the current Akwesasne trust? Because are having discussions. You made comment yourself over that we've learned a lot of lessons in this community about the existing trust. That existing trust went out to a paragraph by paragraph, read by read to the community in every district. So we don't know if this one is gonna happen the same way. They went down 248 million, whatever amount she said, but Wayne made a note in his report that there was discussion. So what changes are being considered for that Akwesasne trust that exists today?
I didn't bring my notes with me. It was just an overview really of, their last year. And they had, I think, two things they were proposing, just trying to remember.
Donna, do you remember Donna's on the IT team? So
When you're talking about the Akwesasne trust, I know that they can only make very administrative, like minor changes to the trust agreement without consultation. And I think that's what Dwayne was referring to.
Yeah.
And but what we can do is we can get the most updated one and get the trustees to share that one, so that you'll have the most updated one. Well, actually, can we put it on our website?
yeah, we can, it's on there.
Yeah, we'll look for the most recent one,
Yeah.
and we'll get that put on the website.
So just an assurance though, I mean, because the way the existing trust is written, like it has, like Donna said, it has to be minimal changes that they can do on their own. Any significant changes, i.e. increasing the number of trustees or removing the overseer component, or, you know, eliminating a major organ of the document, has a very comprehensive process, which includes community referendum. So what they can do on their own is minimum. And so when they do it, they either, you know, consult us, they were thinking of changing this, or in some cases, they say to us, we have changed this. So that's what would have happened, what you're referencing. But we can make the one that's online, the trust agreement, has changed, and we'll make sure to get that on there. Okay, here in the back, and then we'll go over here and then back to you. Go ahead.
Okay, this is for my honorable neighbors. Okay, he's heard not long ago that little girl was wrapped around by two German shepherds, right? Okay, now, there's all kinds of dogs roaming around the village. Is there anybody that's doing anything about it? To get, you take care of these dogs? And another question is, I requested for stop signs to be put over where Oaks' corner store is. And it's been 3 years now. How come it takes 3 years to put 2 stop signs up?
Very true.
So to your first question, I was actually here the day that the little girl was attacked by the 2 dogs, was during the community lawn sale. And we did call the ambulance and the amps immediately. They came over. They did say that the dog that had done the attack was known to them. It was frustrating because they said that they have had that dog and that the owner in court a few times. Apparently there's discretion on whether or not the dog can be put down or not. So that it is in the courts currently for that dog that bit the little girl. Unfortunately, the dog ran away when it was addressed to the person that they thought the dog was. They said that it wasn't their dog, so it kind of, there was no real identification made that it was the same dog that was being the nuisance that they had caught before. On the stop sign on 3rd Street, there is going to be what's it called? Study. The traffic study will be happening this summer that we have been waiting for a number of years. It does take, we did get many other stop signs put up without that study. But I know you've requested, but we've also had people say that it's not needed there, so that's why the study is going to determine.
Speeds there. You didn't answer my question about all the rest of these dogs. Who's responsible to go and tell all these people to tie their dogs up and keep them tied up?
We have one compliance officer at this time. He does go around, he does get calls and he goes around and he does, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd warning or what have you. It's an issue because he works from whatever to whatever time. People know they'll untie their dogs afterwards. It is something that the public safety was looking at getting 3 more. They're looking into funding for that, and as soon as that's secured, then they'll be bringing on more to combat the dog issue.
I go take walks and there's these 4 little fucking dogs, 2 of them bit me at the bottom of my foot. And I told the owner started freaking out. No, they don't buy blah, hair line and this and that. And then one time I took my dog for a walk with me. And he'll bark at these dogs that are tied up because they all bark at each other. And the guy had a sledgehammer over his head, ready to beat on my dog. And the dog was with me. But just those 4 dogs that are running around. And then when I ride my bike down to where Pig Pen Alley is by the church, there's a big dog there, there's a little dog, and now there's 2 more dogs. So I think maybe if nothing gets done about these dogs, we have to do my own thing.
Thank you. Over here and then back over here. Yep.
You mentioned that the reason why the MCR was made to abolish the referendum for the land claims was because everything was the same as it was in 2004. On Monday, when we were in Syracuse and the federal mediator came out and talked to us, he said that a lot has changed from 1982 till now. A lot has changed in the settlement, because it started out as a land claim and now it's a land claim settlement agreement. And so the fact that you're saying that nothing changed is not right, according to the federal mediator. And so what's happening now, because, and how many of you all realize what you did when you made an MCR to take the voice away from the people? People are really upset about that. They're hurt by it because we did ask them what is your way of, expressing your opinion or your approval or disapproval? What is your way? They said the referendum. And the MCR took that away. So we were appealing that decision, but why should we have to go way out there and appeal the decision when that decision can be made by the MCA? Because they're the people here that vote in the referendum. And you could just easily take a vote and do away with the MCR. You just said that when a settlement's gonna be made, that's when you're gonna put out the referendum again. What's the difference? Taking it away now and then putting it back? Because it's just hurting the people thinking about this. And then it's a long court process that we have to do and everything. Just like I said before, it's the voice of the people. Why would you take it away?
So what is the position of the tribe on this? What is the position of the tribe on this?
Is
The position of the St. Regis Mohawk tribe, are they having a referendum?
they're talking also the way you're talking about taking it away and going with 2014. And a lot has changed from 2015 till now.
Yeah.
That's what the federal mediator said.
Well, I don't know that what context he said that in, because he referenced something earlier that he had said as well, that I don't know why he would have said that, so.
Just
mean-
the fact that NIPA put in the extinguishment clause
Mhm.
in the settlement agreement is a big change. And then they tried to change it January 16th to the 30th and changed it to dismissal with prejudice, which means the same thing.
Yeah.
Extinguishment of any further claims by the Mohawk.
Yeah, so our understand, well, my understanding is that the extinguishment clause that's in there is what the position of the Mohawk Nation has been all along, and that's the language they are comfortable with, that it's not prejudicial to other claims, specifically the one that was referenced earlier. You know, in relation to the referendum, we've only reaffirmed a previous resolution that said that these are the results. Now, I mean, it continues, you know, I mean, it continues to be an ongoing file. And in, you know, we're thinking, you know, again, as I described, the benefits as the settlement as a whole, the most beneficiary is on the southern side of Akwesasne, right? And so our members on the northern side, and I don't like using those terminologies, but would only be access to the education, would be the power if it comes down. I mean, if it transpires, and the access to those islands for hunting and fishing. The MCA is not going to get acknowledgement of our jurisdiction over lands in Hogansburg, right? So the bulk of the settlement as a whole is the return of those lands and the acknowledgement that that is Indian lands. That we don't have an interest in having control over Indian lands. So when we look at the main beneficiary is the tribe in the Mohawk Nation. That's our, I mean, you may not agree with that. I'm just telling you that's our rationale, because because what happens if we're at an impasse with two other parties are saying yes and we're saying no, this doesn't do us any good either.
When I talked with members of the MCA, the Van Council, a lot of them didn't even know the issues of the land. They
Well,
did not know.
I-
Every one of them, and they can recite it right now.
They
They don't know. And they just voted on it because I don't know why you even brought that up.
Well, I'm sorry that that's how the decision making is done here, but but they were members of council received a presentation, and this is, you know, what I'm telling you is the same thing I have said, and our people have support, our technicians have said the same.
On behalf of all the people, I would request that you ask all your people if they would vote the same. And if they're not gonna vote the same, you should rescind that. To do away with the MCR, it's ridiculous.
So, and as we move toward the final settlement or a final document, there will be approval process that's needed to happen by the three parties. That's the Mohawk Nation, the St. Regis Mohawk Tribe, and the Mohawk Council, right? And so at that point, if council wants to take, you know, another direction, they can adapt. But so we've only reaffirmed for now, no decision, you know, no final settlement is available to us at this.
But you're the only party that did away with the referendum.
I've asked you what the tribe has said on that, and you've communicated to me that they're not gonna have it.
They haven't done it, they talked.
They have made it pretty clear that they're not gonna have,
They're going to,
that they're not going to.
that's what they told you?
That's what they have told, and that's what they have said.
Well, you should ask MCA because they're the only one on the books that took it away from their people. That's what I'm asking.
Understood. Okay, thank you. Right here in the front, and then we're gonna move to, one more and then a wrap.
It's fine to know, like, say, I know this isn't happening, but say the tribe said I'm not for the settlement. You said I'm not for the settlement and the nation. What would happen then? I'm just curious.
So basically, I mean, what would happen is you go back to court and the courts would take several years. They have to call experts in. Case law comes a huge component on that. And basically, it's the same in Canada. They're not gonna order land back. They will not order land back. They will not say to St. Lawrence and Franklin County that you need to wipe off those tax debts, and it will just be about compensation.
Didn't they just get land, land in Tully?
Say that again?
Didn't Onondaga just get land in Tully?
I don't know the particulars on that. Like the other, it's either the settlement or go to court, right? And that's basically, where we're at.
My other question is, can you have hearings to the people? Because a lot of people don't know what the settlement is. They don't know the details of this settlement. Because it's been keeping kind of hush hush kind of thing.
Well, for a long time, nothing has happened for a very long time. I mean,
No,
this sat,
now
yeah, no, but wasn't hush hush, there was nothing to talk about, right? What the elements from before, well, that's not a long time, summer's a long time, this thing is a 40-year-old court case, like 40 years ago it was launched.
I mean, the settlement came forth in the summer in June, right? Around June, July.
No, not particularly, like this was, you may recall a time when the tribe withheld gaming revenues from the counties, that's when they kind of started rolling from there, and that was probably 2010, so I mean.
That they had at the casino, well, I've been waiting for you guys to bring it forth, I've been waiting and waiting and waiting.
Yeah, well, I've given some insight into, how that is. As we get closer to a final settlement, we'll be having, information sessions.
So I like it, I just like, bring it forth, what this settlement's being offered, this is the settlement that's being offered, and let the people know, just so they know.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna get a backlash, and not at $11, I'm warning you.
Yeah, no.
You're gonna be trouble.
We understand, and there's three parties of this, right? I mean, there's three parties. I can't, that's right, but I mean, the main beneficiary is not the Mohawk. So is
You
it,
just said these are all equal parts in it.
well,
Not really.
in,
Not really.
No,
so
I'm saying
this-
single.
well, I mean, by the court process, we are, but the benefits at the end of the day, if are signed, are all to where the land is located. And that, we have no interest in buying American land and having jurisdiction.
Well, under you might be interested.
Well,
Right.
if we're gonna start governing in the southern side, we should have just conversations about one government. Right, but that's a long process in itself, so.
I'm just
okay.
saying, should the settlement, all the details of the settlement should be. brought
Yes.
forth.
Yeah, and we are
Maybe
working on
not.
that, yeah. Paula, and then we're gonna close. Oh,
I have, some questions for following up on your, reports that are posted. I just wanted to know, what is the National Housing Code Investment Application? What is the update for the Montour White Tobacco Court case? Also, I had a question that we posed to our district chiefs at our district meetings. And I know the Director for Finance and Administration had said that the departments will be doing rolling presentations to the 3 districts. And I'm looking forward to seeing that happen. I know I had wanted to see the organization chart because there's been reportedly a lot of changes that have been MCR'd. I don't want to pay $25 per request to see them, so hopefully you'll post those when they go around to the district meetings. And also, the Director for Admin and Finance had said that there is no difference between indefinite hire and permanent status. So that was clarified. She also confirmed that, yes, there is a preferential hiring policy. I had asked at the district meeting about the public safety director position. Is that posted? When will it be posted? And is the chief of police position also going to be reposted at any point in the near future? Because I believe he's a contractual person. And we should be seeking an Indigenous chief of police. And the community, at the district meeting, we also had asked about seeing the job description for the public safety director. For clarification purposes as well, there was a recent announcement for 5 associate directors within the Department of Health. And I know I had asked the health portfolio and our district chiefs, were those positions posted? Like the Director of Finance and Administration had stated earlier that all positions are supposed to be posted. And are they, from what I recall, seeing the announcement that they're acting positions? How long are they acting? And is this just something in which we're going to do on a trial basis to see if it works or not? Or is it a permanent change to MCA's organization? There was also, is there a recovery for the funds that MCA has spent in the New York State claim? Is that going to be recovered from that settlement? And then my last question is, I just want to say thank you. I understand that the facility for the police station for Cornwall Island move is not happening. That is much appreciated, and hopefully we'll get further, community consultation with whatever might be happening. I know I had asked a year or so ago whether or not the Akwesasne Mohawk police funds were being used for any of that project. I know the chief of police at one point said they were looking at designing a building. Were their funds spent on that project and how much it was spent? And then your schedule of salaries. I think at the presentation of the annual budget that was done by the Welch, it might have been, I had asked about a column to be added for the chiefs for their credit card. It's still not in there. I believe he said there wouldn't be a problem. Thank you.
I can do the credit card because we put all of our.
Sure, just jump right in there.
Just for the credit card one, it would be covered in the expenditures because we use our credit cards when we travel. We're no longer given travel checks. And then there's the amount for both, right, at the end?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the expenditures would be what's on our credit cards, or do you want an itemized list? Is that what you're asking for?
No, your travel, so your travel column is your credit card column.
Basically.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to know where you get your info. So I can tell us at the general meeting, because I think we're being lied to.
Which one is that?
All
Okay.
like Sunday building. Maybe a year now they've been working on it. Nobody's there. And the other project, nobody's there, but you never say what year, maybe it's 2030. You gotta start, who's telling you all?
Yeah, unfortunately, when there's there's processes to review and design and all this other stuff that takes a really long time.
Then bill, we went up that who bill, anyone who's go there yet? To look at it,
No.
knee high, waist high, it's all water. That project went on. James Monroe Memorial Road, you got the water line and everything, I think hydro poles are up. What's wrong with that?
Okay, we can have them take a look and see what's going on. We'll get a report
But
next month. I don't know. We're not, I mean, we're not building inspectors, so we have people that do these jobs and. Yeah, we can get them to go take a look and see what it is.
you ever go look on there?
I've been down there, but I haven't seen that project. Okay. So just really quickly on some of the stuff if we don't have response, we'll put it on to take the action items, the annual budget. Julie has mentioned that the police funds, there have been funds used for a design, so the design was not, the design can be anywhere. The location is one thing, the design is going to be transferable, so a design has been done, so monies were spent to design it. I don't know how much. So the Cornwall Island Police Station, as you mentioned, that the recovery funds for the New York claim, no, there will not be. So part of if the claim is settled, the MCA will receive a percentage of the money that's being provided. We'll recover our expenses from that. They're not going to give us a set aside specifically for legal costs. The acting basis for the changes that the Department of Health will have to undertake to find to find out about that, and the 5 positions of whether or not they're acting and going to be posted. The job description for the public safety director, we can undertake to see if that can be made available. I don't know that it's our practice to make people's job descriptions available. We can look at that. Some of the questions that Cheryl had asked earlier about the fire marshal and that thing. So that is a conversation that's been happening on what a Department of Public Safety can look like, including the police department, fire and just public safety overall. So there is some conversations happening there. The preferential hiring policy, as was mentioned earlier, does continue to exist. Definite and permanent, which was clarified earlier, continues to be the same. The organizational chart, whether or not we can post those, I think that we can probably undertake to look at the open houses, have that, and I think we don't have one real big one. So when the changes come to the council for consideration, it's generally departmentalized, not overall, but I think that we can undertake to start building a big, large one that we can look at. The Montour White case is a tobacco case that decision came out of the Quebec Superior Court in relation to the Excise Act. And council has received a briefing on what that case means. I think that there's some opportunities in that case in the coming years to perhaps for the Akwesasne to play a larger, or at least have some more involvement in the Excise Act and issuances of licenses around that. And that housing allocation question was there was a grant provided to the Department of Housing. They applied for a grant and council accepted what that grant was going to be used for. So, okay. Really quickly.
Yes. Somebody asked me the other day. We had a number of undercover cop cars in Snide. In group, that you can't miss it. So I had somebody on the American side say, what the heck are these guys? And then they're on the American side doing what they're doing in Snide. So who permits that? I mean, you could talk to the police chief. You could give us an answer, say next month.
Yeah,
But they're undercover cop.
Okay.
Are they Homeland Security?
If you could share a bit more information about when and perhaps what they look like, we can follow up. There are some.
Oh, they're all small little cars. And they go, oh, yeah, they have New York State plates.
Okay.
And they wear ball caps. Our police don't wear ball caps, or they.
I don't know. I don't know.
I know Homeland Security wears that.
Okay. Thank you for sharing the information. Yes.
Okay, I'd like all you chiefs to just keep your mind all of those politician crap things doing. And just think, you all have children, right? Every single one of you. and you all have children that are gonna grow up. Okay, is concerning about the land, where there's land that you can fight for and get back. Think about your children, okay? Take the land, don't make stupid deals. We'll give you land, but you gotta do this, you gotta do that. No, take the land, so each and every one of your children grow up. They got somewhere to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did miss at the beginning of the meeting that Chief Cindy Francis is out sick this evening, so you know, for the last couple of days. I have a resolution that I'll read for the record to accept and approve the general meeting minutes of February 1st, 2024. Could I have a mover? Julie, seconded by Dwayne. Discussion on the resolution.
Question.
Question's been called. All in favor? Any against? And against, it's carried.
Listen.
All right, I want to thank all of you for coming out to this evening's meeting. We haven't set the March date as of yet, but we will announce that. So thank you very much to all of you. Could I have a motion to adjourn? Tim and Vince. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for all.